Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Carry On Nurse from 1959, directed by Gerald and of course the second Carry On film in the series. So yes, we are back once again, ready to discuss Carry On. This time around, there won't be a spoiler warning for this discussion. You can rest easy. I won't be getting into the plot really too much, just discussing my general thoughts on the film, so you don't have to worry about spoilers in this review. So yes, with all that said, let's dig into my thoughts on this fascinating film. And yes, the first Carry On film that is, set in a hospital primarily, so obviously that would be, a staple going forward. There's quite a few, obviously, Carry On films that were set, in hospitals. So this is really interesting. Also, this is the most successful Carry On film of all time, really. So in the UK, it was the highest grossing film of 1959, and also the highest grossing British film in the US until 1994, with Four Ends and a Funeral. So very interesting that this is the most successful one, and it's really when all the deals were being made after this, Peter Rogers, Gerald Thomas, etc., were kind of really realizing this was successful, and there's an audience for this, and this is kind of what set the series up in that sense. Although I personally believe it wouldn't be until maybe Regardless, and then again until Spying, where the kind of real Carry On tone, real feel, and the real kind of I think style and all this kind of stuff would really fall into place there. It would be a very gradual process, but this was obviously the first in some of the milestones there, and certainly, yes, the most successful Carry On. And for me, it's a very interesting film. I do enjoy this one, and consistently after the first act, because I have some issues with the first act. It doesn't really reel me in personally. It does once it gets going. It's very consistently a nice film, one that I am invested in the characters. I think it's very cool to see, obviously, the first of a few things. Matron, the character Matron in this, obviously Hattie Jacques playing Matron. Love Hattie Jacques, and obviously we do have the debut of Joan Sims as well, for the Carry On series. It would go on to be, a total of 24 films in the series, so massive, obviously regular in the series, and obviously we have a return of Kenneth Connor, Charles Hawtrey and Kenneth Williams. Once again, Kenneth Williams, I think in the first few Carry On films, he wasn't really, the kind of the lead, if you will, or one of the few leads of the films, and it would still kind of be a background character, supporting character, and his usual kind of iconic, roles that he had and the way he performed wasn't quite there in this film, and a few of the others early on. He just wasn't. Didn't really, get given, I think, the chance personally to really shine, and obviously it took a few films just really, and then obviously Kenneth Williams is one of the most well-known, loved, and iconic Carry On cast members, and he was kind of front and center of most of these films. I would say Regardless is the one that again that was kind of the first in that, and going forward, obviously Spying, all these ones, he would be. Kind of one of the main cast members, and one of the main roles really in these films. So yeah, it's very interesting to see this. I think the first act, it's set in Haven Hospital, the men's surgical ward, and it's just kind of showing these in a very kind of peaceful way. These characters. There's a few arcs that kind of gently go along throughout the film. It's a very, I think, breezy film. It's definitely very, very, very light. At times, and the first act, I think, too light. That's one of the things. It's just a bit too, perhaps, flat, and it's just kind of, it's not that investing in that first act. It doesn't really, grab me personally, and it takes a while for the characters to really, become a bit more interesting, and it's just a very light approach. I find it's not, it doesn't feel like a lot of the Carry On films going forward. Once we get past Act 1, it becomes more investing, as I say, and I think it's a very nice location, use of location. I think the sets are very good. I just think some of the script is very nice as well. It's good in places. I think, Charles Hawtrey's character as well is very consistent with the recurring gags with him. That's quite funny. The cast is what really makes this film. Obviously, the debut of Joan Sims in the Carry On films. She's great in this film. And as well, I think Kenneth Connor, in these films, he's very, enjoyable at times as well. The cast is the strongest point of this film. I think at times the script could have had a bit more bite. I guess it could have been a bit more sharp. As I say, it does kind of at times it's a bit too breezy. It is a bit too light, and it kind of falls into a little bit of flat, feeling perhaps. especially the first act. But you know, there are some moments throughout the rest of the film where it's just a little bit. It could have just been, yeah, a bit sharper, a bit too light for me. And you know, I think it wraps up very nicely as well. We do have in the final act things, you know, coming together quite well, but never really feeling like I've gone through this, you know, kind of full narrative of some of the characters. It's just kind of a bit one note, I could say, with some of the characters and some of their, you know, kind of arcs, you know, in the film. Of course, Charles Hawtrey, you know, is really funny in this film. Charles Hawtrey's characters, you know, in these early ones, really throughout the whole series, you know, they kind of stand alone, you could say, you know, more than any of the cast members. You know, he is kind of doing his own thing. Obviously, in a lot of the films, he is integrated, you know, very much so in the plot, you know, in the narrative with different characters. But you know, at times, you know, he can just be on his own and just do something really hilarious, and it wouldn't matter that he doesn't really have, you know, a connection between different characters in the film. You know, and I just think, you know, it really works in this film. His you know, gags. So yes, for me, you know, this film, it's okay. You know, it's definitely you know, an enjoyable film. You know, after that first act, I do consistently enjoy this one. It's just not one that really blows me away. It's not one that I love or really like personally. It's just a fine film, a very light, as I say, sometimes too light. You know, kind of British, you know, charming comedy film. You know, with some spots of romance in there, obviously, and you know, it's a nice comedy to watch. You know, and I think it's obviously a successful film to the point where it did, you know, really launch the series. So it's very significant, and I do appreciate this film. And I enjoy this film. Not much more to say there. It's a charming film, you know, relaxing to watch, very soothing. You know, just at times a feel-good film, and the cast really are the strongest point here, and could have been a sharper script, definitely, and the direction at times, you know, it just feels a little bit flat for my liking. But overall, you know, it's an enjoyable film, and I would recommend seeing this, of course, as with all the carry-ons, and just to see what you think. So overall, my final rating for this film is a 61%. That's a fair score from me. To highlight my enjoyment of the film, you know, I think once you get past that first act, you know, I was definitely enjoying the film consistently, and love seeing the cast members here. Standouts, of course, are Hattie, Jacques, Kenneth Williams, and Charles Hawtrey. Definitely, Kenneth Connor is always a highlight, particularly in these early Carry On films. You know, he was one of the main, you know, kind of regulars here, and obviously he was in Sergeant as well, the very first Carry On, and you know, I do really like Kenneth Connor. So yeah, you've not got the entire you know, regulars here, but a lot of them definitely, and you know, I think it's something to really appreciate this film, and you know, I did enjoy this one, and as I say, a charming, you know, kind of easy to watch, you know, at times warm Carry On film, British film, and yeah, it's not one that goes you know, kind of into the real Carry On standards, but it's a very nice film to see, and you know, it's just a charming film, and you know, I do enjoy this one. So 61%, you know, I think it wouldn't be, you know, kind of near the bottom, but it's not one of my favourite personal, you know, Carry On films, but it is definitely in some regards, obviously, you know, it's kind of a step up over Sergeant, and you know, I'll wait for the ranking to see what I prefer, obviously, but yes, you know, it's definitely really interesting to see how you know, the series is developing. Very similar to Sergeant, I would say. It's not, you know, a massive difference, but there's definitely some things, you know, in the background, and you know, tweakings and to the formula here, and obviously pivotal characters like Joan Sims, you know, actors that came into this one that really, and you know, the character of Matron as well, which you know, is definitely a kind of something we hadn't seen, obviously, you know, in Sergeant. So yes, very fascinating film, one that I do personally enjoy. Of course, as always, it would be great to hear your thoughts in the comments, and what do you think of this film? You know, it'd be very interesting to hear, and just general discussions on the Carry On series. So yes, as always, take care, and thanks for watching.